All right, here we are with the front end of this Toro wheel horse 520xi out of it. And looking at that hole, you can see that the front axle pin is wearing on this 1/4-inch plate pretty bad. So I pulled everything apart, and this is what the pieces look like. Other than being packed full of grease and mowing trash from the previous owner, this front axle is in very good shape. That hole is good and tight, so it's just the frame and the pin that are worn. Looking at this pin here, I believe this is supposed to be one assembly. And look at that weld. One little tiny weld to hold that pin in place. Otherwise, that looks like it's a machined surface. This pin is 871 thousandths of an inch, which is just shy of 7/8. But the front of that frame rides on probably a 5/8. Yeah, a 5/8 thread of a bolt is what that front rides on. And I think I've got ideas to make this a whole lot more of a stout setup. I popped the front hanging weight off of Putt-Putt, my 502. And you can see this front axle pin here. Last year I stuck a bolt in the end of it. So that's a 3/4-inch pin that goes through that 1/4-inch frame. And it's tapped to hold it in place. So today what I'm going to try to do is cut me a big thick plate of steel here and bore it out to 7/8 of an inch. And then I'll weld it on here and drill through the frame. So that'll be all 7/8 of an inch straight through. Okay? And then if I make a pin long enough that I can put a bolt in the end here, make this all greasable, and then weld it to the back side of the pin bracket on over there, I believe I'm going to have a whole lot better results of holding that front axle in place. I'll probably also take some time and get this thing clean because it is unbelievably filthy. That oil filter was leaking. It wasn't quite tight when I picked it up, so it just made a mess everywhere. All right, I have this 2x2 by 1/2 inch plate with a 7/8 of an inch hole. And now I need to clean up this frame and clearance that hole so it's basically non-existent. I was going to weld this on and then transfer the hole through, but I'd rather not chew this up. And I know that if I weld the pin to that back side of the plate well, this won't ever spin and won't ever wear. Centering that 2-inch block, I marked out the hole and kind of hogged it out with the die grinder. And now I believe I can try drilling it out more. Well, there we go. We've got it drilled out. And with the stock pin, I can just barely pass it through this 1/2 inch plate and both of those holes. So what I'll do now is make a longer pin and tap the end with probably a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch thread. And then I will work on assembling it, and I'll slide that pin in place before I weld it. There we go. That's good and tight. I like that. That's going to tighten up that front end a bunch. There. That's real nice. It's good and tight. And I like that. So I'm going to weld it in place. Well, if you've been watching this whole XI build series, This is the first time that I've MIG welded. Excuse me. It was just so much easier to get in there with the MIG. And so I just cranked up the heat and cranked up the feed and burned it in real good. And that's going to be a fix that is going to definitely outlast me. So I can put a bolt in the front just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to weld that pin to the existing bracket on the back side. I had that pin slid into place and bolted that bracket on and gave it a good old burn with that MIG welder. Now this job is pretty much done. It is only time to clean up and paint what raw metal I have left and then reassemble this thing. Appreciate you watching. Thank you. And there we have a tractor back together. I believe I might have a toe-in issue. A little bit more than I would like. But I can adjust that once it's on the ground. See, that one's way in. But these spindles are splined, so the steering arm can just pop off and move back or move forward, whatever is needed to get that tire where it needs to be. But I'm so amazed how much tighter that front end is. Obviously my steering isn't tight, so there's still some slop, but moving that axle around, it's there's virtually no slop at all. And the grease has just enough room. It's not like it's too sloppy, it's not like it's too tight, it's just right. I'm really happy with that outcome.